welcome into another episode of Grit inside Manhattan Beach Studios. I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf, head coach for Long Beach State Beach Volleyball. Mike Campbell is joining us today on this episode, and we're going to talk all things Long Beach State Beach Volleyball, NCAA volleyball, recruiting, and some rule changes.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I know season is around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
How's it feeling out there on the sand? Are you still in double days? No,
we stopped. So we went all the way through the holiday, Martin Luther King holiday. So we had about a week of it. It was great. I like to give the team 2 days off, so they had their weekend off. They had their Saturday, Sunday. We call it team bonding, so they got to hang and do some things. But double days is great. It's a great opportunity to train. We love to do some technical training, so we like to slow things down. So we got to spend 4 to 6 hours a day doing that. We do have a lot of young, newer faces, so that's been great to kind of immerse them into a real spring season. And that's been just fun watching the team rally around them, having been through them, because I do consider, I'm sure every head coach sits here and says, hey, our off season's different, or our double days are different than everyone else's. I truly feel that, because I think we put them through the grinder a bit, mentally and physically. And so it's nice to see now we have a team that, as they've aged, they've become really, really good mentors for these younger athletes. So our junior class, we have a pretty large junior class, and they're doing a great job mentoring. Not to mention we have a great senior class, but just smaller numbers. Mm-hmm. But still, the mentorship tree is really healthy this year, which as a coach, I'm very proud of our relationships.
And I think that starts from the top down, in my opinion. So that's a testament to you as a head coach in the program and culture that you're building at Long Beach State, because other programs don't have that culture, and it's pretty divided. So it's really awesome to hear the culture that you're building at Beach. Any new faces breaking into the lineup?
Yes, we can finally publicly announce we added an LSU transfer, Victoria Henkel. We've been working on getting her admitted, and there were some just things with her transcript that had to be updated, and so we got her in just recently as of Saturday. Our wonderful academic advisor was working on a Saturday to get her registered for classes, and so she officially started Monday. Tuesday we got her compliance and all that situated, and so today will be her first practice. So we're really excited. It actually worked out really well, because she was at the Pan Am Games this weekend, so some of our athletes had to miss practice anyways. So it worked out that it was I think it'll be a really clean start for her. So she's one of the big spring transfers that we got this year. Outside of that, we looking back at fall when we started, just a good group of freshmen, really strong group of freshmen, and a lot of really strong returners. So I wouldn't say new faces necessarily outside of Victoria, but definitely some hopefully evolved faces, some players that have evolved their game for the better, and their maturity level, I think, has grown just through fall is great. You play 20 to 24, 25 matches. If you get to go to Huntsville, you're in the 30s. And it's just amazing we get to play this much in our off season. And so we're seeing a lot of maturity development in the team. So I think that'll help. Some of these younger athletes have gotten through that kind of 19, 20-year-old years, and now they're getting into their older years. And I think we're excited to see how that kind of presents itself in their game.
Yeah, I definitely want to pick up on two things. One, kind of as a coach, managing that spring entry, because it's a little bit different, and the transfer portal's popping up. And then also talking a little bit more about that AVCA qualifier pathway and national championship in the fall, which is newer. It's in round 3 of building that, and how that helps your program.
Yeah, I think it's great. Our program, one of our core values is compete. And I think it's great to have in the fall something that every individual, whether they believe it or not, they have an equitable opportunity to compete for a selection. Hey, within our team, we're going to select 1, maybe 2 of our best pairs, or the pairs that we think most will benefit from that level of competition, which is essentially some of the top teams in the nation. And so there's a little internal competition within the program, and it allows us to kind of, spring, some teams can unravel. I've seen it in our team before in years past, where the culture can unravel if too many people start playing for themselves and not for the team. And when you start announcing lineups, that can get really detrimental to the psyche of some of your fringe players that are not maybe playing the 30 matches, but they're getting in, or they're just, getting in the 6s, but barely not quite there for the 5s, 4s, et cetera. So now you have a kind of a template in the fall where you can use internally to build some more healthy mechanisms and framework around, hey, this is how we compete here. Ultimately, on paper, yes, maybe we will send our best 2 pairs, but ultimately the decision will be who's going to most benefit from this competition, who's going to most develop from that level of competition. So yes, the first year we did send 2 of our top pairs. This second year, I think we sent a couple of our top players, but necessarily we didn't know where they would be in our lineup. And yes, they ended up being some of our higher players. And then this past year, we sent a similar model, and we sent a young freshman to just see kind of what she was made of with that group of 3 players that we knew have been at the top of our lineup. And so it was great, because whether she plays 1s or 2s for us, this freshman, her name's Demi, or whether she plays 5s, like, we're just stoked that she has that confidence. And she was kind of exposed in the tournament out in Huntsville, and she rallied. She was exposed on day 1, had a hard day. I didn't go. I sent Christian this year. He's my assistant coach. He's absolutely amazing. He's been with me 11 years, so I felt like he deserved an opportunity to kind of shine out there as a coach. And he did great with them and kind of got her back, and they played a great second day. And they didn't ultimately, finish. I think they finished in the tied for 16th range or 17th range. But the volleyball they were playing was extremely better within 24 hours. So, I think that tournament, for all things considered, the competition internally has been great, and just being able to showcase our sport on that level from the pairs lens, I think gives everyone an opportunity. Because even if you don't win a lot of duels, if you're a top pair, you have an opportunity to better your scenario in some way. Maybe you have to transfer to do that, but it at least allows you to shine in a sport where we're accustomed to seeing only typically 2 pairs from our countries represented. So I think it does reflect that really nicely and cleanly in that younger age.
What inspired you to coach, and how did you end up at Long Beach?
I wish I had a cool story. It was just blind luck, really. At a college, I've always coached juniors indoor. So I needed some money in college. I was at UCLA. My folks were great. They helped me out a lot, but my dad and my mom wanted to teach me the value of work ethic and working hard and making money. So I coached. I was like, what's the easiest way I can make them happy and also get some cash in my pocket? And so I coached down at Sunshine. I coached like a 16 threes team, and it was just all fun. Like, I did things that I just would do in my own training at UCLA. Like, hey, we're going to pass, we're going to serve, we're going to play defense, I'm going to hit some balls hard at you, we're going to have a lot of fun. And that snowballed, like, that joy that I got just from helping kids that other people were like, oh, you guys aren't very good, you're a threes team. We just had fun, and then we would improve. And I was like, there's a lot of value. I felt I want to say 20. It was my junior year, so I was probably about 20 years old when I started. And it just warmed my soul to kind of impact people in that way. And so that's kind of where it's rooted. And then over many years down the road, I worked at I worked at Molina Healthcare down in Long Beach, and I knew Joy Furbinger really well, and she was kind of helping out. She had just stopped working at UCLA and was focusing on her club, and kind of started helping out at Long Beach just because they were down a coach indoor. And Matt Ulmer had just gone to Oregon. And so they were like, what are we going to do? Beach season, this is, we got beach season coming up. Like, what are we going to do? And so Joy was like, hey, I know a young coach. He's pretty good. Because by that point, I had switched over and I was coaching at Rockstar, Mizzou Long Beach. And she's like, I know a young guy. He's young. He's got nothing really going on in his life outside. Not in a bad way, but you understand.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to travel. He's ready to recruit. He's ready to, my first year, I think I took 5 days off out of 365 days because I just, Erica Dillard, Erica Chittister at the time, she was also the assistant up at Oregon. She was pregnant at the time, so she was on maternity leave. So they were down to Brian Gimolero, who, if anybody knows Brian Gimolero, that's a Brian Gimolero shout out. He's a creature of old habits, and he needs a lot of physical help, a lot of inputting, a lot of downballing, a lot of, so I was just, I seemed to be a good fit. So like I said, blind luck, Joy called me, was like, hey, do you want to coach in college? I was 24 years old, at the time. I went in, I interviewed, and Brian brought in all the seniors who were 21, 22 years old, and I'm like, I'm 2 years older than the gals. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And they just were like, will you play? Will you compete? Will you have fun? And I was like, yeah, we can easily. What 24-year-old guy wouldn't love playing in a women's practice and getting paid to do that? So blind luck, I just said yes. And then they were like, oh, by the way, Erica's now going on maternity leave. Do you want to coach beach? And I had played beach all my life. I was like, how hard could that be? And it was funny, our first year, we upset all these teams, made it to the finals, played Anna. We lost, but it was a great run. We were the 8th seed. We had no business beating we beat every seed outside of USC in the tournament. So that was really fun. And then that's kind of where it all took off. Like I had a lot of fun that first year, not knowing anything. And then I just started immersing myself a little bit more in the coaching aspect and learning. I started working on the AVP and just kind of learning I got really lucky with the athletes I got to coach, and just kept learning from these great professional athletes, just doing drills that I just thought of in my mind. And I was like, hey, what do you guys like? What do you dislike? And we collaborated. And then I would just take literally the template from the guys' practice and just immediately put it into the college women's practice. And it worked great. And I just had a lot of fun doing it. I know I'm getting away from the original question, but that's kind of, like I said, really lucky start. And then just it snowballed into this amazing, career that I've had doing it that I've come to really, really love. I think my why now is a lot different than it was then. But I think I've been really lucky with the timing of just how things have worked out at Long Beach for me, with all these coaches indoor changing, and then the athletic directors. We've had 3 athletic directors since I've been there, and me kind of being the one constant with men's volleyball down the hallway. That's been a great relationship, just seeing both our programs flourish, them obviously much more so with their national championship runs, but it's been great to just have some consistency, and Alan Knipe is someone I learned from a lot. So having just those people around me, I've been really lucky, really, really lucky. There's been some greats. Andy Banikowski was at UCLA, and I was the team manager there. And I got to just watch how he managed himself. And I didn't realize it again at the time, but now as a coach, I remember him vividly, practice plan to the minute. As soon as it was 10, we'd start at 10, it was 10:20, we were moving on. And I think a lot of coaches fall into the trap of, we're gonna make this go until it works. And I learned time management from him. And then I got to work for Mike Seeley, who won championship at UCLA. Then I got to work for Brian at Long Beach. So I've been very lucky. That's why I call it kind of blind luck. It's been completely out of my control other than just saying yes to things. Mike, you want to coach? You got it. You want to be a team manager? And just my first year I was a team manager at UCLA was when they went to play Nebraska. Sarah Pavin was a big lefty at Nebraska. I'm left-handed. They're like, we need you to hit about 500 to 600 balls in a row in practice, and we need you to hit them hard. And I was like, I can do that. I was like, what do I get paid? They're like, nothing. I was like, I can do that still. So I was a freshman at the time at UCLA doing that. And so that was a lot of fun, being able to help. And anyways, my why has changed across the years. And that was how it all started. Just a lot of just good yes decisions that turned into what it is now.
Well, we can see your passion. It shines through in your eyes, and just you light up when you talk about coaching. And this is absolutely your calling, whether you liked it or not. The cards fell, the volley gods were like, we need Mike out there.
Volley gods are a real thing. I do believe in that. They definitely have guided me this route, and I've been lucky to follow my instincts with them.
I love it. I don't know. You definitely don't remember this, but you were coaching a summer camp at UCLA. I think when you were still playing and I was getting recruited, so I went to the UCLA camp, and you coached me at the camp.
That's cool.
Yes,
That's
I
cool.
remember that.
Yeah, our paths have intertwined a bit, because when we were at Irvine, we obviously had to play you guys at Long Beach, and so any camp at UCLA I was a part of, because of obviously the cash incentive, and it just it fit well with the summer schedule. Play beach volleyball all day, and then come in, do some camps for a week, and then back to the beach.
Yeah, it was always fun, the black and blue rivalry.
Long Beach State,
for sure. UC Irvine. It was always fun playing you guys.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of changes. I mean, you've been coaching there for what, 10 years now?
This will be 11th season.
So 11th season, heading into it. And obviously the evolution through ABCA, kickstarting beach, to NCAA, to all the changes that we're facing now with legislation. But I'd love to just hear some of the things that you're thinking about through your university, because we have the rule changes proposed for roster sizes, capped to 19, and then also the scholarships, having unlimited scholarships. So where are you at with your university? Yeah,
I mean, we've, our new athletic director has been there almost, I'd say about a year and a half. I might be getting the dates mixed up. It feels like a year and a half. It probably isn't. He's had a lot to do with it. He's handled it well. Excuse me. And so our university, I think, for now, I think we're kind of waiting for some more information and I think he's done a really good job kind of collecting the opinions of all the sports and figuring out, hey, what's the advantage of opting in? What's the disadvantage? I think for our sport, we're not a revenue, we're not driving a lot of revenue in beach volleyball, especially because at our events, we don't ticket. There's no way to make money off of this. We don't stream our events on ESPN quite yet. So I think for us, we're really looking at if we opt in, we're now, our structure changes quite a bit. Yes, the scholarships evolve and we get more. Our funding necessarily wouldn't change, but our ability to maybe fundraise to offset drastically almost triples, right? In number. I think the big hit would be roster limits. You start losing bodies in a sport with 10, I consider 12 starters because of the 6 exhibition matches that you play consistently throughout the year. 7 extra bodies is not enough. Not with when you're capped. I mean, I think if that passes and we do get stuck with 19, I think you got to look at other rule changes and changing like 16 dates is probably not enough.
Right.
You shouldn't have to make athletes play 2 or 3. I mean, we have a date this year where we're playing 4 matches in a day. And, that's because we're stressed with 16. Like we've got to get to, about 30 matches. That gives us the best chance to be 500. So that way, if we don't win our conference tournament, we have that at-large criteria met where you've got to be a 500 team.
Right.
And so that gives us the best ability to kind of load our schedule and challenge ourselves while also kind of finding the matchups where we know we have a better shot of maybe winning to keep that record where we need it to be 500. And so, you got to look at that if you're now capped because the athlete's body can only handle so much. You can't play 6 matches in a weekend and do that 8 weekends a year in a 9-weekend season. That is unheard of in a lot of sports. And so right now we have 24 athletes on the roster, we can blend that number of matches very nicely where yes, our All-American pair, Taylor and Malia, they're probably going to play 99% of the matches. Maybe they rest 1 or maybe we bump them down to the 2s for 1. Maybe there's some competitive incentive reasons for that. Disciplinary, who knows? You never know what happens in a season. But outside of that, everyone else there's a little bit of a scale to you're going to play about 25 matches or 20 matches or 15. A lot of players will play 10 right in that position. I mean, that just allows you to spread out matches and develop athletes. I mean, the reality in our sport, not everybody's going to play pro, not everybody's going to go to the Olympics. Right. But to give a quality experience to a student athlete, you can do that with more than 19 in beach volleyball. I think coaches can manage that especially some of the coaches I've talked to that I know in our conference and across the country. I mean, that is a very doable thing. 24 is a nice number. Let's just say a nice even number.
12 and 12.
Right?
2 squads almost.
You got 2 squads. You got basically a substitute for every starter in a way. I mean, that's fairly common across every other sport we see. I don't know. 19 it seems very arbitrary. I don't know how they fall on 19 in a pairs sport.
I think it was a percentage based on a number and the same percentage equation applied to all sports.
And I think they just rounded to 19 or something, right?
Okay.
So, but to get back to your original question, our school's been great in terms of just kind of figuring out, hey, what are your needs? How does it impact you? What is it going to do to your budget? What is it going to do to your team culture? I'm deathly afraid of having to cut players that I preach relationships about. And now I sit across from that at a table and go, sorry, nothing I can do. Right. Doesn't feel great for an 18 to 20-year-old that has to hear that. How do you package that? How do you deliver that? I lose a lot of sleep and build a lot of anxiety over those conversations. So we're going to do everything we can to try to help these athletes, as any coach will, because it's out of our control. But at the same time, if there's a way we can fight this and go, hey, we object to these roster limits. We don't mind the scholarship increase. Again, it doesn't change us. We're still operating below even the 6 that are allowed right now. But if there's a way we can keep more athletes, even as walk-ons, I mean, walk-ons make up the majority of our sport.
Well, and part of that legislative change doesn't really go into depth about the walk-on or that buffer roster or the ability. I know there's still questions about, well, what happens if somebody gets injured in the middle of the season?
Yeah. I hope a lot of those questions will be answered in the next couple of months, before we have to ultimately make decisions come May. Early March, our school has to make a decision. Hey, what are you going to opt in or are you going to opt out? And if we're leaning towards opting in and there are roster limits in effect, then April 7th, Judge Wilkins' decision is a huge day because if she rules in favor and now we've got these new rules and there haven't been any objections, there haven't been any changes to the proposal, now those conversations in early May after NCAAs look a whole lot scarier for head coaches that have to make these horrible, horrible decisions that we don't want to. but we have to kind of follow the rules of the NCAA. So, yeah, I think objections are due January 31st, and there's been some good conversations around that with lawyers, here and there, and trying to. One of those was just brought to my attention earlier this week, so we're just trying to get that in front of the student athletes so they're aware. And our school's been, like I said, very supportive to give student athletes a voice in this, which I think is important. Collecting those opinions, because it is going to impact the higher percentage of athletes. It's going to impact at a school like ours are going to be the ones that are going to get removed.
Right.
And their teammates that are roommates with those players that cause a rift, or that are just best friends with those players, which, I mean, as you know, that is very prevalent. Nobody dislikes their teammate that much where they're excited when they get cut, right? Yeah, you're going to have a bad apple every now and then, but for the most part, your teammates are your sisters, or your brothers or your family. So seeing a loss it hurts everybody. It hurts everything in all ways. And so I hope we can recover from it if it happens. Again, I don't want to speculate too much, but it will be a sad day when that does happen for those students, because where do they go? The trickle down, they can only go so far. And then do they go to JCs? Do they get lost and not graduate? I mean, because at the end of the day, I think one of the beautiful things for those walk-on athletes is they get an outlet for their competitive nature, and they get to do it in tandem with their education. And if they don't have that outlet, do they even want the education? And now we're sacrificing education, or the value of education, because we are not willing to budge on a arbitrary number that was, like you said, a number that was plucked out of an equation that probably had a lot of budgetary reasons, but not a lot of player input.
Yeah, I think the value of education gets lost in these conversations. Some of these conversations, especially with NIL, is like a pro-contract conversation.
Totally.
And I think there is a disconnect with education now.
Yeah, one of my biggest things anytime we recruit, especially a grad student, is, hey, I will not take you if you don't finish your program. I think it's a complete, first of all, it's astounding to me that you would ever undervalue a master's degree. Like, I've always wanted that, never had the time to do it or the money to get one.
Been busy coaching.
Yeah, been busy coaching. And for you to think that you have this privilege to just get this, hey, you get to go play for a year and then I'm not going to finish my program. Like, what do you mean? The professors invest so much time in you, the school, those are resources. Our school is paying for your scholarship for that to, come out in you later in life. Like, there's a certain balance to that. There's a certain development to that. So we don't recruit athletes that aren't willing to commit to that. Hey, and typically we will pay at least for their tuition to make, to help them. If they're scholarship athletes, we'll help them finish. So we have an athlete right now. We've made an agreement. If you, start next year with us, you'll be beach only. She's done with her indoor eligibility. If you start next year with us, you need to finish the program through the following fall. That'd be fall 2026. Are you willing to do that? Sign on the dotted line. Here's your scholarship. It will cover your tuition all the way through. Even though you're out of eligibility, we'll still cover it, but you've got to agree to finish your degree. So I personally value it. And, that comes from my core values, from my family, how, we were always straight A kids, pushing grades. That's not what I expect of my athletes. I just expect the same work ethic and the same approach, the diligence, the dedication you have to your sport, I expect in the classroom, just because I was talking to Megan earlier, beach volleyball is one of the sports where you can really shine. Your brain can really shine in a sport where there's coaching rules, where I can't get information to you very quickly, by design of the sport and the ruling, officiating. So if you've got the mental, the brain, the bandwidth, you can really hydrate yourself with some tactics and some strategy. That will only make you a better student, and vice versa. So the more you're willing to hydrate in the classroom, the more that's going to, look beautiful on the court, and vice versa. So when I hear those stories, other sports just dancing around the NIL money, I get it. You got to help your family. There's a lot we don't know, right, about the personal. But at the end of the day, I think if you're signing a contract with a school and it's a scholarship or an NIL deal, like, there's an obligation to be a student as well there, and you should value that equally, And I get it, the stress of season, and maybe there's some things that need to happen there when you're traveling. And that's why every school has those university policies, travel letters, things like that. But at the end of the day, putting your butt in the classroom when you're not traveling and being committed, it seems to me easy. It's an easy decision, but I know that's hard for some.
Yeah. What are you looking for when you're recruiting?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have the cleanest answer. A lot, we look for those blue collar work ethic kids. We look for the chip on the shoulder kids. We look for Obviously, top talent. I think we'll always recruit top talent, and then we kind of play the waiting game on June 15th. We always have the best call. Hey, we really loved our call, but I got to wait to hear from the big dogs. I got to wait to hear from the top 2, 3 ranked teams. I think for the next couple of years, we'll be ranked really, really high. So I think we'll be, in conversation. But ultimately, what is, the thing that makes these players unique? If I had to give you just a 10-word answer, what makes you unique? If you can answer that as a 16-year-old, we're going to take you. Because first off, the articulation for a 16-year-old to be able to speak about themselves in that way and not worry about sounding conceited or being too humble, like to be able to just cleanly say, hey, this is what I do really well. That type of confidence, I think, does really well under our coaching and in our program. And, in the positions we put that athlete in. I think some of the most talented athletes probably still have a hard time with that. And we probably, yes, we want them, but we don't fight as hard for the ones that can't articulate that 10-word message. So that's something we always ask, and the ones that kind of, we go with the flow. Hey, if they giggle it off, then maybe they're not ready, but we wait to find that answer. It's an answer we ask of every athlete right now in our program. We do these entry meetings we do them at the beginning, end of the year. We do mid-year meetings in the semesters. What are you evolving to? What is your 10-word answer to what makes you unique? That's something that I really believe in. 10 words is a generalized. You can be 20, whatever. But in a sentence or less, can you tell me what makes you great? And can you get behind that? And, like you said earlier, the passion shines when I talk about myself as a coach. I want that to shine in the athletes about what makes them so great. And there's some wild answers. But again, it's not the answer I care about. It's the process by which you come to that answer. And if you've done that work as a recruit, you'll do really well with us. Because again, the people we talk to, the people emailing us, they know they've got to be good. And they are. There's a lot of really, really good players out there. But again, to make the jump for us, when you look at our schedule, our first 10 matches, you play 9 ranked teams in the top 10. You better be ready to go, and so we have to have athletes that have that confidence. Don't get me wrong, they're going to struggle with mental health aspects of imposter syndrome and stress and they're 18-year-old women, it's going to happen. But we have tons of resources that help them through that. And we have a lot of experience and good experience dealing with, what I call little trauma. The big trauma is the big trauma. We put them in front of the experts. But the little trauma, the kind of the 1,000 cuts you get along the way of being a student athlete, I think we have a really good way of dealing with that. So, we share that story with recruits. We hope they see that. We lose the battle. If you're looking for a place that has the beautiful locker rooms and the beautiful courts and the 5-star facilities, we're going to lose that battle every time. But if you're looking for a coaching staff, with great continuity, like I said, my assistant's been there 11 years with me. If you're looking for a community rich with volleyball history, Misty May is a friend of the program. That's someone you get to meet in your 4 years at Long Beach. Not to mention the many other greats, Brittany Hochaver. That's AVP-wise, amazing athlete. Human being-wise, amazing person. I don't know if it's public knowledge yet, so I won't share it, but one of our alumni is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So we get to have that. We have Hall of Famers in our program that our athletes get to meet that are pillars of the beach volleyball community. And so, I think some of that stuff shines through our program the most. And then core values. We give you 9 really, really strong core values that you will undoubtedly come to love. And they're simple things: respect, communication. Those are 2 really simple things, but we teach the proper way to give and to earn respect. We teach the proper way to communicate. Kids, I'm gonna call them kids when they come to me, but women as they leave, they have to learn the power of triangulation and how to eliminate that in their lives. I think athletes in a pair sport with a coach, 3 people, literally the perfect triangle, it's very easy to follow the wrong model. And so I think a lot of what we do is teach. So, the big recruiting pitch is, if you're a learner, we will saturate your brain with everything it can handle in a very comfortable but uncomfortable way. I think that's like the biggest thing I read. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Everybody says that. I think for the way we teach, that's your life motto, basically. You don't even have to say it. It's just what it is, and whether that be physical, mental, spiritual. We do everything under the sun when it comes to development of our players and separation of identities. That's the biggest thing, is teaching a 16-year-old that, or preaching that to a 16-year-old. They're like, oh, that sounds great. But when you get them and you're like, hey, you need to untangle your identity of student, of athlete, of human being. Like, you are not the value. Your value is not if you win or lose matches in our program. Your value is, are you constantly bringing the best version of yourself to the table? And in doing so, we will find a way for you to help this program. Can you place value on something that abstract versus we're trained all our lives to score 21 points. You've got to be the winner or you're the loser. So unpacking that is a journey we go on with our athletes. And athletes, in the recruiting pitch, like I said, if you're willing to go on that journey, if you want to be coached that way, we're a really good place for that to really, and that's something we tell parents a lot too, is like, hey, if you want your children to really, really become their authentic self and really understand that they can be different, but also blend in your parents' core values, your team's core values, your spiritual, if that's the way you go, it all fits. But it's just the conversations around those and the education around those and how we can kind of compartmentalize it so we can still push you as an athlete, push you as a human being, and push you as a student.
Yeah. You're one of few programs that still really nurture the hybrid athlete, the indoor and the beach. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit how you make that work and some of the pros, cons?
Yeah, I mean, we've been really lucky with the athletes we've gotten, with the coaches we've had indoor, going from Brian to Joy to Tyler to now Natalie. Like, these are good coaches and players want to play for them, and so we get a lot of transfers that kind of, the selling point is, hey, you can play both. Like, you came from whatever state, Texas, California, wherever you're from, you have a rich history of juniors beach, but you went to a school where they didn't have beach. Now you're in the transfer portal, things didn't work out for whatever reason. You can come to a place and you can do both. So a lot of our combo athletes kind of fit under that umbrella. And then we have a lot of walk-on athletes that do both, and they're just really good at both. And they don't feel like they want to decide one or the other. They understand maybe they're not going to be guaranteed starters in both, but they have a great shot of carving out a big role in both. And that is attractive to them. And we, we've got a very organized approach to it. When they're in the fall, they're in the fall. When they're in the spring, they're in the spring. If they don't make rosters for either and we want to pull them back, we have that conversation head coach to head coach with the athlete, and we go, hey, what do you want? What do you as an athlete want? And ultimately, the coaches, are going to make the decision, but if you don't collaborate with your athlete in that space, they're not going to be as bought in as they probably could be. So yeah, we have 4 right now, and it's been great. It's been great. A couple of them are scholarship, a couple of them are walk-on, one of which is a transfer, Natalie Glenn, who we got from Minnesota, and she's been just a pivotal player for us every year. This will be her 3rd season with us, and she's got a number of accolades, Big West Pair of the Week, all these wins. She's approaching 100 wins, if not already passed. I think she's approaching, so she's doing great. And we hopefully have her another year as beach only next year. So I think just the way we train is I think there's some things you got to be careful for. Workload, academic workload, and physical workload, right, is what I'm kind of talking to there. You never get an off season, so you have to have an athlete who has an experience of that, kind of the willingness to go, okay, hey, I don't necessarily need that. I have the maturity. I kind of know when I need my breaks, and I know when I need to kind of get my body ready. So they kind of, it doesn't sound great, but they kind of know how to take some shortcuts in their off-season training, right? Like, hey, I'm going to take a week and just go to the Bahamas. Like, I just need some time off, or whatever. I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to take my time away. I'm going to just go home. But then they can shrink their 4-week lifting program into 3 weeks because they just have the maturity. They know their body. They know how to push themselves to get ready for that next phase, whether they're in the winter coming into beach or in the summer going into indoor. So they just have to learn that quickly. And like I said, it's education. We put all the programs, weightlifting programs, we put all the conditioning programs, all the training programs in front of them, and they just have to find the balance and know they have to track it and be willing to kind of calibrate, and then also let us put some wind in their sails if they're off course, and kind of course correct them back onto the trajectory they want to be on. And it's just worked really well with our combo programs. There's never been a tug and pull or a tug of war necessarily between the coaching staffs, because that can be brutal. Like, imagine you're in the spring, but your indoor team starts playing fall tournaments, and they get a couple players that get injured, and they're like, dude, we need our top outside back. We need somebody to put some balls away, because the coaches are so competitive, the optics of losing a fall tournament. But we've been, pretty communicative as coaches, going, hey, that's not what we're going for. We're just training. You keep them for as long as you need. They will not, Monday, Wednesday, Friday be on the beach, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday indoor. Like we gotten away from that model. I think we did that with one athlete for about 2 weeks, then we never did it again. And that was the athlete's choice. She's like, hey, I'm going to play this Saturday. I need some touches. I want to do Tuesday, Thursday. And by Monday we were meeting going, okay, I just want to play beach. And so it usually kind of separates like that. Like fall is indoor, spring is beach. If you're one of those fringe players fighting for a role, you got to make a decision. Do you enjoy being on the high, achieving team and being a role player, a teammate, a cheerleader, whatever you want to call it? Or do you want to maybe push yourself back to one of the other sports where you get more one-on-one training in your off season? So for us, because both programs have always been strong, it's been, hey, I'm going to stick with my team. I want my team environment. I'm going to push. I'm competitive. Regardless of what my role is, I'm going to have a lot of fun in that position. So it's just worked out really well because that's how we've sold it to these athletes. So we've had as many as 6 or 8 even, and now we're down to 4. Next year we're projected to have 2. And then if she gets any transfers that want to do it, maybe 3 or 4. But as of right now, my understanding, the way our school's interpreting it, crossover athletes do not count towards that head count. So if there's new roster limits, we could have 19 beach only, and the crossover athletes could come in the spring, and they still fall under the women's volleyball head count.
Nice. So another workaround for the
and that's something that we've asked the questions, and we haven't gotten a solid answer. So it comes down to your compliance department's interpretation of rules. And I've heard lots of different interpretations.
I'm sure.
But I'm very, we've got a great compliance department. They are, they interpret the rules the way they do, and we have precedent to do this, so we're gonna go for it, And so I'm excited about that we can continue that relationship with indoor and continue to recruit that level of athlete, because I think when you find the right ones, they are great. They're great for both programs. They're leaders naturally, just because they kind of know how to lead themselves. So they don't have to be vocal leaders. They just lead by example. And I mean, who else would you want to follow as someone who just doesn't talk a lot and just gets it done? So they've been great for our program.
Leadership, maturity, being able to have that on your roster is huge. Some of that stuff is uncoachable to a degree.
Totally.
Coming into the season, you have a lot of juniors, you have your seniors. You're playing 9 ranked teams. What's the mindset right now?
Yeah, I think the first 2 weekends are going to be tough. We've got Pep and Cal. We open with Pep and Cal, and Pep is just always, great coaching staff, great program historically. They're always challenging to play, and we play up at their place. And then we've got Cal, we've got a nice rivalry, whether they know it or not. We feel the rivalry because they've beat us 2 years in a row in NCAAs. So we're coming pretty hard for them that first weekend, and then we go to the Battle of LA where we're playing the UCLAs, the USCs, Cal Poly. So I think we rounded out with Concordia there. You just got to be ready to go when February hits. That third weekend of February. So I'm excited for that. One of the new faces I forgot to mention is Skylar Gurman. We've got Skylar back. So she was a 2.5-year player for us, and then went to Florida State for a year, and then came back for her final year. So we're really excited to have her back. She did get surgery in the fall, so she hasn't played at all. And so she's progressing really, really nicely. We're excited to maybe start her practicing full next week. So she'll get, if she's any shell of herself, she'll be able to help us in any way. And she's just got, I think for us, just a quick story with her, when she left the program, it was under some big tension between her and I, and just in the team space. It was just a very heightened time doing it when she did. And it was what was best for her, and we understood it, but it just didn't come off that way. And it was no fault of hers. It's just the timing of when you leave your team in double days. It's hard. It's hard to process that loss, and especially because she was so strong of a player and a captain. That's like losing one of your appendages. Like your life kind of changes. And, we did win Big West that year. And I don't think if she had left, I don't know if we would have had the same fortitude as a team having gone through that. So now that we're on the other side of that, she's on the other side of that. She's seen in another institution, Florida State, great coaching, great team, didn't fit for what she was looking for. She realizes, hey, you know what? I think we had to grow our way back together a little bit. And so we have this player who has this full picture mindset of seeing everything as if she's out there. That's the whole goal. Is like the Michael Phelps thing of visualization, is he always wanted to see himself swimming his race from like the stands. And if he could do that, he knew he would be in a really good headspace to win the countless medals he won, right? And so that's where Skylar basically is. Like, she's able to see herself now in this position as if she's just kind of a spectator. And we have this great mindset, this great human being who's leading the team. She's one of our 5 captains. And she's able to give tutelage to everybody, whether you're super, super stressed out because she's been there, whether you made a bad decision, have had to recover from it, she's been there, whether you are injured, she's been there. She's been through kind of enough to where she can now advocate with real life examples. So that's one of the new faces I forgot to mention that we're really, really happy we have, because now you get to see, like, it's kind of funny in fall, I've always joked with her and the team, like, you've seen the nurturing version of Skylar, and in the spring you're going to see the competitor side. And when you can blend those together the way she does, you really empower yourself to be your best and your most authentic self. Not a lot can stop you at that point but yourself. And so it just makes things, the sight lines, a little bit more clear. So I think having her as one of our strong 3 seniors, with her, Megan, and Haley, all players that have a good number of experience of years under their belt in matches, behind them, 6 starting juniors probably. You've got that kind of complement that you want to see in a team, where it's not going to all, like in the past, it's kind of always hung on Malia and Taylor's shoulders. You've got to be at your best because we need to count on you to get a win. Like, whether you're at the 1s, the 2s, or 3s, they started at the 3s their first year and they won 20 straight matches. Like, we just knew we needed them to win. Now we're at the point where, hey, we're going to give you the best chance to play the best you can. And we've got the pieces behind you to also be able to do that and find wins outside of one and then whatever the other 2 flights would be. Now we can maybe, if they have a bad match, we can back them up. Whereas historically, they've had to back up those below them at the 5s or 4s or 3s or 2s that have had bad matches by kind of finishing, hey, we need you guys here. We need to close this 3rd set out. So they get to play with a different type of pressure. You know, the pressure's now on themselves because they're playing the best team every week or every match from every team in the country. So like you said, those matchups early in the year are really important for us. We will probably have a lot of different lineups. We have such depth in our lineup through those sophomores and freshmen. Freshman Demi that I alluded to earlier that went to Huntsville, she's going to have to be somewhere. So we're excited about the possibilities of not looking at our lineup as 1 through 5 and just looking at it as 10 really good volleyball players. Something historically we've looked at and been like, okay, we've got 6 very talented volleyball players, and then we've got 18 really hardworking volleyball players. And it presents itself in different ways. So we would have to match up. Hey, if we're in the wind, we've got Nikki Ranking for that one because she was just a stud in the wind growing up down in Huntington Beach. If we're in jumpy sand, we've got our bigs, our combo kids that are just spikers that just can hammer balls. Let's put them in. Now we just go, hey, we're going to just put our 10 best. They can play in any weather, any conditions. Let's just go to battle. So I'm excited about that for this season, of just kind of how all of these transfers that we've brought in. Megan Widener's one of them from Hawaii. We got after her first year. She's now a senior. So they're on the other side of that journey, and they get to now articulate those stories through their teammates, through the leadership model we have. And it's going to be really exciting, because I don't think by any means, if we start 10-0, awesome, but I don't think we will. But if you start those first 3 weekends in a good place, we're going to be pretty happy. We go from, like I said, PEP to USC, UCLA, then we host. And we do bring in some teams that weekend that will challenge us, and that'll be really exciting. I think anything can really happen at that point for a team that believes in themselves that early in the season. We will go to LSU the 3rd weekend of March, and we play LSU, FSU, Texas, and TCU. So that's a big weekend in terms of the one-off matches. You only get to play those teams once. So I'm really excited to play. We haven't played LSU in a number of years. The last time we played them, they beat us at NCAAs. We haven't ever played TCU. We've played Texas, but Texas every week is a better team than the last. They're very well coached with great pieces. And then Florida State is a team we've battled for many years, going back to, when it was AVCAs and we played them. And so I'm excited about how we've scheduled and kind of the opportunities it presents for a team like ours to try to make a big push, not just in our conference, because we've got Cal Poly, who's an absolute monster. But we want to make a push nationally this year a little bit more than we have in the past, where we've kind of lost a lot of those top 5 matchups.
What are the keys to success coming into the 2025 season?
I think for us, the biggest thing, it's actually not even volleyball match related, it's team related, it's unity. Our team struggled with that a little bit last year, just to be honest. We had some players, like I mentioned, really wanted the best for themselves, which is something we coach. We want our players to act in their best interest, but not at the detriment of the team. So the conversation we had this year is, last year we talked about opportunistic. Be opportunistic. Take the opportunities when you can. I did a little bit more research into that, and that term, whether we know it or not, that usually comes at the detriment of others. If I'm opportunistic, I'm going to take advantage of a situation, but sometimes I don't recognize the people that I'm harming in doing so. So we've reframed, we've changed the verbiage to being astute. We want to be a little bit more aware. We want to make those same decisions to help ourselves, but not at the detriment of others, at the betterment of others. So an astute player in our program is someone who can navigate. Let's say they know their partner's injured. It's navigating the space of injury recovery. Hey, I don't really want to ice bath, but I know it's what's best for our team. I'm going to go do it. You know what I mean? It's that awareness that I will be better by doing this, and in turn, my team tomorrow will have a stronger practice because I am healthy. Does that kind of make sense? Absolutely. So maybe it's a little bit of a sloppy metaphor, but it's kind of blurring that. Whereas we were opportunistic. Hey, I'm getting an opportunity to play in the fives. Like, I need to win. And if I lose, it is the end of me. Like that, do or die mindset was prevalent last couple of years. And so we've reframed that. We've made a huge push in the fall for togetherness and unity and culture and really building, I think culture is built in one of two ways. You either win and everybody gets in line because you win championships and that's what we do, or you design it and you build it and you put the labor and the sweat and the tears and the time into building that. And I think we did that for 7 years. We lost sight of it the year we won. We kind of rode hey, we won, this is how we do things, but we were forcing squares into circles and circles into squares. Like, we just weren't putting the pieces together in the best way. And so we got back to our roots. We got back to what made us great and has allowed, has allowed us to hang on for so many years with such little, budgetary resources and not having some of the recruitment tools these other schools have got, kind of really bought into with facility upgrades and things like that. Ours shines through in the culture and the way we play, and one of our other 9 core values being joy. Joy is something I think our athletes do a great job of showing when they play, and showing, like I said, the balance between being a competitor and really, really wanting to win, but also doing it in a way that doesn't compromise your core value of joy and having fun in a sport that I think is one of the most special sports, beach volleyball, is that you can do it at any age and you can have fun doing it. I mean, you go up and down the beaches in Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, you'll see any age athlete playing and having fun. And then you'll see the groups of friends that have played for dozens and dozens and dozens of years. And it's like, they're gnarly. They're playing like this is the NCAA match for them, or the World Championship match, the AVP championship that they played in. Like but then they're friends after, and they're hanging, drinking the wine, hanging out, just having a good old time. So I think that's one of the beautiful things of our sport is you can have fun while competing against your opponents that will eventually be your peers, that you will eventually be playing in a Sunday or Saturday game with down on the Strand.
I love it.
Yeah, I guess for me, everything's evolving. Mm-hmm. You've had the same coaching staff for 11 years together. Is there any scope in adding another coach and maybe adding a female coach to that?
Yeah, we've been kind of our volunteer coach, St. John Smith. The real St. John Smith is what we call him because his dad I guess his dad's middle name is St. John, or nickname is St. John. But St. John we got from, he graduated Cal Poly. He's fairly young. We've had him now 3 years. So our volunteer is always turned over. We've gone the route of having a female presence. We've gone the route of the male coach. At this point, we're like, hey, whoever can be there 100% of the time, because that's what our competitors have. They have a coach who is consistently, they've got 3 coaches in their, coaching staff that are consistently there. So we've been very lucky that St. John has been able to give that to us, and he gets paid $0. Our school, as far as I understand it, there's no plan to add salary for that position. In our conference, there isn't a big plan for that as well. I think, fundraising that money is tough. That presents some HR challenges. So I think we're still a few years away from being able to have a full-time coaching staff. I think our school in general, we still see sports tennis and the water polos, the golf, some of those smaller sports that are not as revenue generating are still in that same operating model. So it's hard for me to ask when I see Jenny Hilt Costello, who's the coach of tennis, who's been there 30 plus years, and she's operating for 30 plus years with 1.5 coaches, her and a half, 0.5 employee. And she's been a 20-time Big West champion in tennis. So I think for me, it's really easy. Hey, give me more money. I can be great. For me, I've always thought, let me problem solve my way out of this. Let me kind of think of, okay, here's the problem. Let me provide a solution with what we have and with the people we have, empowering those people around me. So yes, for the sake of the team, it is imperative that we get a female coach in our next probably hiring cycle, whether it be in Christian's position, because he's ready to become a full-time head coach if he wants to be, or in St. John's position. I think that balance between my personality is super, super lucky. I'd be remiss if I didn't share my wife is a therapist, so I get a lot of help from my wife, and our household is constantly talking about the challenges of being a coach, and she's a marriage and family therapist, so she is very immersed in the expertise of relationships. And so she is my sounding board when it comes to all things coaching. So I do have that in my life, but for obvious conflict of interest reasons, she does not work with the team in that regard. But we have that presence, and she's a huge supporter of our program at a lot of the matches, and she gets to know the team. And, you know, it really is, I know it sounds trite, but it really is a family for us. And we bring up my children to the games, and the athletes get to interact with our kids. And it's been great having my wife around for that, to be that, you know, strong female presence for our team in that way. We do a lot of team bonding events at my house where I just cook for the team, come hang out. We'll do tons of different things. But it all centers around just spending time with one another and just being us, you know. And so I think, to answer your original question, we're a few years away from probably getting that full-time coaching staff, especially in our conference. Once our conference makes the move, then yes. Right. Being us, Cal Poly Hawaii, some of the pillars of the conference, I think Davis is making a push. Like, we're all clearly wanting that. The conference is going to have to respond and go, okay, hey, we're going to get behind it, and schools need to start budgeting for that. But I still think we're a few years off. I think the dust has to settle from the new NCAA lawsuit here. Going on. I think there's a lot of changes that take, you know, a little bit of priority over that. But for now, like I said, our mindset, and we've been very lucky with the coaches we've had, they buy into that mindset, and they really value that. Hey, it's really easy to kind of find a reason why we can't be great here, but let's just try to find the people that do make us great, that are in our department, that are in our academic. I mean, our academic advisor, Martha, has been with us for 11 years. She's been at the school for 20, and she's a resource that we use basically as part of our staff. I mean, she's a recruiting tool. Right? We make sure all of our recruits sit down with our team advisor, because she is a recruiting tool. And we have those all throughout the community, throughout our boosters. Obviously, sometimes they can't meet with recruits, but they get to be a part of the team experience, you know, in the ways they're allowed to be. And we have great people in the department that we just have to highlight in those ways and empower in those ways. And that's what ultimately, I think, helps solve some of those problems of, hey, it would be nice if I could spread my time differently, especially with a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old kid at home. But we have people that we just have to trust. And I'm a micromanager and a perfectionist at heart, and I'm very OCD and super type A when it comes to the planning of things. And that's something I've gotten really good at, going, hey, you know what? Martha can handle this. Like, I don't need to be all over the players about their study hall hours. Like, I trust Martha, and she understands me and how important education is to me, and I can offload. And that's just one example. We have dozens of employees in our department that are, it's a thankless job. They have no idea. The athletes have no idea how these people, and I'm sure it's very relative at lots of the mid-majors. So I'm just speaking to our experience. It's my opinion, but I think for now we're going to lean on those people, and we're very, very fortunate we have those people currently around us to spread the workload, because the workload is increasing for sure, but we're managing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys.
And any kid seeing this is, I want to go back and play collegiate volleyball. Thank you so much for coming on. You've built the foundation. You've built the culture. You're living a legacy here at Long Beach Volleyball, and it's really awesome to have you on and hear your story and preach the word of beach volleyball and Long Beach State specifically. And it's just been awesome having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I love sharing our story as it relates to the program, but also just the story of beach volleyball. I'd love to spend more time with you guys to tell you how I started, because it's a fun story as well. But I think
we'll do that. Let's do it.
Yeah, we should. It is a fun story. I've shared it on some other podcasts, and it always gets some laughs. But thank you, guys. I love talking about the team. I love talking about our department and our program. And thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to share.
Anytime. And we look forward to that next episode.
I owe you one.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in wherever you are listening, in the car or at home. Make sure to like and subscribe. to Grit Volleyball. It keeps us going here inside Manhattan Beach Studios. Keep it gritty out there.